Good evening, everyone. My name is Abelardo de la Peña Jr., Director of Marketing and Communications with La Plaza de Cultura y Artes, and welcoming you to our latest session of En Casa con La Plaza. With the closing of La Plaza de Cultura y Artes back in March, a lifetime ago, En Casa con La Plaza has been our way of fulfilling the mission of our museum and cultural center in telling the little told, untold stories of Mexican Americans, and all Latinos in the founding, growth, and evolution of the Los Angeles area and beyond via these virtual presentations, conversations, demonstrations, performances, and more. We do it 3 times a week, sometimes more, but we're here and we're welcoming you to En Casa con La Plaza. It's sponsored by SoCal Gas and California Humanities. If you're on Zoom, please use the comment section. Let us know where you're viewing from. We have the Q&A feature. Use it. We'll answer questions during and after the conversation. Those of you on Facebook as well, please join in. Use the comment section. Let us know where you're viewing from. And ask questions when you have an opportunity. So with that, I'd like to welcome you to today's session. It's Hostile Terrain 94, the Undocumented Migration Project. We had planned, before the pandemic, of course, our exhibitions have come to a halt. In fact, they're on the walls, but we have 2 currently on display, temporary exhibitions, and Hostile Terrain 94 was slated to open back past October 24th. With a reception and a roundtable. And then also we had some ancillary programs to go along with it. But unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we've had to save it for this session for now. And then hopefully in the future, we'll be bringing it to La Plaza de Cultura y Artes. The Undocumented Migration Project is a nonprofit research, arts, and education collective directed by UCLA professor of anthropology and Chicano, and Central American Studies, Jason De Leon. Jason, he's the head curator, as I said. He's also an author of the award-winning book, The Land of Open Graves, Living and Dying on the Migrant Trail. He's a 2017 MacArthur Foundation Fellow, and between 2013 and 2017, he's curated the traveling exhibition, State of Exception. He'll be joining us tonight, along with Austin Ella Shipman, the program manager for the project. She holds a BA in Sociocultural Anthropology and Spanish Language and Literature from the University of Washington, has been involved in the Undocumented Migration Project since 2010, having assisted with field school efforts in both Southern Arizona and in Mexico. Also joining us tonight, Gabriel Cantor, the exhibition coordinator. He holds a BA in Sociocultural Anthropology from the University of Michigan and has been involved with the Undocumented Migration Project since 2016, where he focused on a photo-ethnographic project related to anti-fascist movements in reaction to the 2016 presidential election. Nicole Smith, she's the exhibition coordinator, involved with the project since 2017 and has conducted fieldwork with the team in Southern Arizona. Particularly interested in the relationship between materiality and memory, the ways in which children experience clandestine migration and climate-induced migration. And finally, Michael Wells, who's the principal photographer and co-curator of the exhibition, Hostile Terrain 94. He photographed the project's ethnographic and archaeological fieldwork in Arizona, New York, Mexico, and Ecuador. He's an LA-based photographer, creating photography projects on post-Katrina New Orleans, the physicality of the US-Mexico border in Arizona and California, and Latino communities in the American South. So we have a lot of you with us today, but let's get started with Jason De Leon, the founder of this project. Tell us about the origins of the Undocumented Migration Project, please.
Sure. So thank you, number one, for having us. I know that we all wish we could be convening in person, but it's just great to be here virtually. And I think in a lot of ways, as we were talking about previously, going virtual for now, I think has allowed us to connect with people around the world in ways that they perhaps wouldn't have been if the show was only happening physically. So we're excited to both transition from the virtual into the physical into next year. But the Undocumented Migration Project is this sort of long-term ethnographic, archaeological, forensic project that's trying to document and humanize the migration experience from Latin America to the United States. We've worked all across Mexico, across southern Arizona, as well as in places like New York and Ecuador and every other location where you're going to find Latino, Latinx immigrants. So we've been doing this for over a decade now, and one of our commitments is to try and raise awareness about the things that happened to migrants along the U.S.-Mexico border and elsewhere, but also trying to translate the anthropological work that we do, the archaeology, the ethnography, for different types of publics. So, people who maybe wouldn't want to read an ethnography or who wouldn't want to watch a documentary film, in which we've done both of those things. But, people who want to go to museums or people who want to listen to podcasts. And so we've been trying to translate all this work into different venues so that we can raise more awareness and educate the public. And Hostile Terrain 94 is really just the kind of most recent iteration of our attempts to raise awareness about stuff. And I'm just going to show a couple of quick slides here before we open it, just so people have a sense of what we're looking at here. So let me try my share screen. This is always awkward for me. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so unfortunately, thousands of people have died while crossing the U.S.-Mexico border since the 1990s, all of them really the direct result of a U.S. border policy known as prevention through deterrence. So here is a map of about 3,400 migrant deaths in southern Arizona. You can see Nogales at the very bottom there, and Phoenix sort of in the center of your map. We've been trying to really engage the public in this conversation about, under this current administration, there's been so many things that have happened to migrants, to immigrant families, incredibly destructive sorts of things. But in a lot of ways, I think because things have been happening just so chaotically in real time, we've sort of lost sight of the longer history of the abuses that Latinx migrants have experienced over many decades. And so this project is really trying to bring things like this map into public view. And so to do this, we've come up with this exhibition called Hostile Terrain 94. And basically Hostile Terrain 94 is a collaborative, participatory exhibition that involves organizing thousands of people around the globe to come together and really to witness and to raise awareness about those who have lost their lives along the Arizona-Mexico border by filling out toe tags with information for the dead. So, and here you can see this is an orange toe tag with an unidentified individual, and the manila tags that are in the background are for folks who have been identified. We've got about almost 1,000 unidentified bodies in southern Arizona alone, and over 2,200 named people. We've asked people to come together and to help us fill out these toe tags in a variety of different places. This is a photo from a prototype we did last fall at Cypress College here in Southern California. And really the idea is simple. We organize hundreds of people to come together, we give them the information, and we ask them to sit with these toe tags and to, through their handwriting, bear witness to this process. And in a lot of ways, we're asking people to help us take this map that can be very sterile and is a Google map that's based on an Excel spreadsheet, and through their kind of labor and through their love and through their sort of dedication and commitment to learning about this issue, they convert this digital map into one of these physical installations. And so here's a final version of the map showing the 3,400 toe tags, and which I think ironically, when you end up mapping this all out, the toe tags themselves start to make a map, start to look a lot like the outline of Mexico. So this is the kind of simple logic behind prevention through deterrence. Where it gets a little ambitious for us is the fact that, we are predicting that we will have over 130 physical installations into next year, and if not into 2022. We were actually planning on La Plaza was going to be one of our final shows this year, but because of COVID now, we've pushed everything into next year. But we're going to be across 6 continents. We're going to be all across Latin America. We're currently raising money right now so that we can subsidize all of our Latin American shows. But the idea is that people will come to these places, and anybody can host the show. The overhead is fairly low. It's about $1,600 for a kit. We give them all of the information, and then we help them to kind of figure out how to engage with their community, and then how to install these exhibitions. And our team can talk more about the nuts and bolts in a second here. So people they want more information about the locations that are coming up. You can go to our website, hostileterrain94.org, and you can also look at the map of all the different places where we're anticipating having the show. You can also get more information about us on our various social media platforms. We're all over Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and you can both go to the Undocumented Migration Project websites or the Hostile Terrain stuff. And so this is all here, and we'll put it as well in the chat box. But so you can check us out on social media. And before we get into questions, I know that this always comes up, and people, especially right now as we're all trying to find ways to engage virtually. Folks have been emailing us and saying, how can we get involved, even though the physical shows aren't happening yet? I want to get involved in those later, but what can we do in this current moment? And what we've decided to do now, for the last several months, we've been running a program called A Moment of Global Remembrance. And we are looking for 3,400 volunteers from around the world to come together and to make either audio or video recordings of themselves reading out the names of the dead as a way to recognize those who have lost their lives. And those videos will eventually be compiled into about a 15-hour long audio/video recording that we will be using in our physical locations as well as on our digital platforms. But I'm just going to show a 1-minute video here to give folks a sense of what this current digital project we have looks like, and then also information about how they can get involved. And then we can jump right into the Q&A.
Name, unidentified. Age, unknown. Recording date, September 5th, 2010. Cause of death, undetermined.
Alfonso Salas Villagrán, edad 64 años. Fecha del informe, 22 de agosto de 2006. Causa de la muerte, cardiopatía.
Name David Orocho Romo. Alter 20. Meldedatum 28. September 2004. Todesursache Verletzung durch stumpfe Gewalt.
Thank you. We'll definitely post that information on our website, our social media. We record this program for viewing on our YouTube page, on our Facebook, and on our website, and we'll be sure to include that information. So thank you for that. That was, I mean, just a handful of the victims, and just with that, very emotional. But then all of you have been, Jason, of course, yourself and your other team members have been involved with this, this project, the Undocumented Migration Project, for at least a little while. So how did it come to this expression, Hostile Terrain 94?
Well, it's sort of, we've been doing exhibition work previously. And one of the things that we were sort of struggling with previous exhibition work was that a lot of the show State of Exception was incredibly expensive to install. And we really wanted to find a way to come up with an exhibition that was accessible and that anybody could do. And so we sort of started brainstorming around this idea of, could we raise awareness about migrant death through asking folks to fill out these toe tags. We would send them these kits. We would make the cost really low, and then we would say to them, you can do whatever you want with this, build the exhibition, and then bring your community together for other kinds of programming that you think would be relevant. this kind of all started like as a sketch on a bar napkin, and and Gabe and Nicole were in the room as these things were starting to kind of happen, and basically we went from, hey, here's this idea that we sketched out on a piece of paper, to what do you think could happen if we start asking people to participate? And so we put this call out in January of 2019. We said, hey, people want to do this exhibition. It's about $1,500. Here's the details. We'll help you to put it up. Is anyone interested? And we immediately got like 50 or 60 calls for interest, and then it just really ballooned from there. And Gabe and Nicole have been really the folks on the ground, engaging with all of our hosts, and I'll let them talk a little bit about what those experiences have been like.
Yeah, please do. Nicole, Gabe, chime in, please.
I can go first, and then Nicole can clean up whatever mess I say. But yeah, Jason was, for me and Nicole both, our Anthro 101 professor our freshman year at the University of Michigan. And we started working for him different years and didn't actually meet and work together until our senior year of college. And that's when HT94 really took off. And that fall semester, that was the fall of 2018, there were about 5 other undergrads working in the lab. We were all working together, and this project started. And we, leading up to this first exhibition we were going to do in Lancaster, Pennsylvania in January of 2019, we filled out all 3,200 tags ourselves, just the 6 of us. And it was pretty immediate that we felt the intensity of the act of filling out the toe tags, and all of the waves of emotions that come with it. And so that's when the discussions really started of how to not just make it an installation that can go places, but to have the actual setup and preparation and the work that's the crucial part, the emotional part of it, how that can be spread everywhere too. And so we then we had that first prototype in January, and then really hit the ground running, thinking of ways to make it as like streamlined and do it yourself as possible for all of the hosts. And so we graduated that spring of 2019, and Nicole and Austin moved to LA that fall, and we started working at UCLA and having Zoom meetings before Zoom was the common communication with tons of folks, mostly faculty members across the world, to start early planning and having the conversations of, which was like really exciting. Like my favorite part of it was having those early conversations to tell them like the nuts and bolts of the project that they should expect in preparation, but also then to get to hear about their communities and then kind of brainstorm together how we could, how they can use HT94 as a means to really mobilize their community in different ways, and to have this greater conversation that's unique to each and every place that it gets to be. I don't know, Nicole, if you have something else too that you want to say.
Yeah, I'll just add, like this fall, we had originally thought that all of the shows would be, installed by now. Obviously that is not the case. And so we probably have around 10 to 15 hosts who have physically installed their exhibitions so far. And I think, despite everything that's been going on, it's been incredibly humbling to see them kind of take this exhibition into their own hands and be able to transform it and cater it to their communities. I was just talking to Gabe earlier today about Penn State, they're one of the hosts who have installed the exhibition so far. And we just got an email from them about how impactful this has been to the individuals who have put it up and into the community at large. And so that is just so incredible for us to hear and to see, and to be able to reach so many people. I mean, a lot of hosts are connecting this exhibition to local artists who are getting involved in different sorts of arts groups that are really augmenting the exhibition in a lot of different ways. And so that's been so cool to see.
Yeah, and I did, there are some, just in researching for this program, did see that it is at least at 3 universities, right? Boise State, Luther College in Iowa, and Penn State So these are three places that are far away from the border, of course, but that do have, I'm sure, along with other communities, have seen migration coming in, and so I could see the impact that they would have on the people that are participating in this. Austin, you've been with the migration project for a while. Tell us your involvement with this exhibition in particular, or this project in particular.
Sure. So I met Jason as a student as well, but back in 2010 at the University of Washington. I'm from Seattle originally. And I often joke that I have a degree not in anthropology, but in like the teachings of Jason De Leon, because I immediately deeply cared about his research and what he was trying to do. And I was like, this is what I want to focus my education on right now. And so throughout my initial, professional meetings, I stuck with the Undocumented Migration Project. I was always in contact with Jason and helping out whenever I could. And then I was actually in the process of applying to grad school, and Jason was like, so I have this opportunity, and offered to have me move down to Los Angeles and help manage the Undocumented Migration Project as well as the exhibition. And so that was something I couldn't say no to, because it's never the UMP itself it's something that has stuck with me, regardless of what I've been doing professionally, for the last over 10 years now. And so to be able to come down to California and see this full circle of what Jason has done from the beginning of his career until now, and help develop it into a nonprofit, and then also see this exhibition that's taking this research that I've been a part of and seen for the past decade and translating it into a way that people from all over the world can see and interact with it and have a really important conversation. And some of it, I definitely have moments where it's a little frustrating that we still have to like tell people to have this conversation, because it's been a humanitarian crisis for a very long time. But I'm glad that people are talking about it, and especially through the pandemic and everything that is happening right now. It's really inspiring to me that people still have rooms in their hearts and their minds to have this difficult conversation, and to want to be part of the exhibition and project. And especially our hosting partners, the ones who have needed to postpone, the fact that they're committed to doing this exhibition regardless of when it happens is amazing. So.
All right, thank you. Michael, you've been involved with it even a little bit longer with the Undocumented Migration Project than Austin. Tell us about your involvement, not just in the hostile terrain exhibition, but also in other projects that you've taken on.
Yeah, so I've known Jason since high school. He's one of my best friends. So when he first kind of started talking about doing a project, and it was still kind of coming together at the time what exactly it was, I went with him to Arizona and just took some pictures and kind of hung around, and I guess slowly became part of the project. So I took pictures, and then we eventually traveled all over. At the time it was in southern Arizona, but then it traveled to Mexico and eventually to Ecuador, New York. And kind of my background is in, I'm a professional photographer, but my background is in art and design. And so I have that background, and I was able to kind of lend, I guess, that experience for exhibition work and things as that kind of happened. So ideas for how to talk about and how to show things in different ways, I guess. But my so, and I work in the field with Jason, so I'm not really, you know, in the office quite as much, but I'm just in the field and talking with him and collaborating in that way. And so there's been different iterations of the exhibit where there's been photography, there's film, there's sound, not just from me, but from people that are, you know, from migrants and creating their own imagery, telling their own stories. So we've kind of collaborated on that. And so that's been, when I'm trying to think, when I first started, I had worked on, around the time this project started, Jason and I were kind of thinking about different projects, and then that's when we had driven across the country and we started. I know it says that I did a project in the South. That was a brief project, but a larger project I did was, as far as a Latino-based project, was on Latino-based soccer leagues in Los Angeles. That was mostly in MacArthur Park and Lafayette Park, and then in the Valley. That documented leagues. We did a book for Adidas, so I did that. Was another kind of similar type project, but not quite as in depth as this one. Yeah, so I just have been kind of helping out where I can, I guess. So.
All right, thank you. So this Hostile Terrain 94 is like the latest iteration or just a product of the Undocumented Migration Project. So Justin, you've been, of course, you founded it, you've been working at it, and just in viewing both this exhibition, this project, plus others that you've done, you combine it seems like you combine, of course, your skills in anthropology and your Chicano studies and you turn it into art for all intents and purposes. Was this something that you did with intent, or is it just something that just has come around, you know, since you've been doing this kind of work?
You know, I think the artistic stuff, it was a slow evolution. You know, I think in the beginning, Mike and I had long conversations about, you know, what do we do with the stuff? What do we do with the objects that we've recovered almost 10,000 artifacts that people have left while crossing the U.S.-Mexico border. You know, we have a really large archive of shoes and water bottles and clothing and you know, personal items, things that border crossers have left behind and lost. We treat those materials like we do any archaeological collection. So they're archived, you know, they're prevenient. So we've got all the detailed information about where the stuff comes from, and we had been using it as archaeology and analyzing it kind of in that way. But then Mike and I, you know, we're having conversations about, you know, can we use this stuff in exhibitions? Can we photograph the stuff and publish it in different ways? And I was always really reluctant to do some of the stuff because I worry, and I worried, and I still worry about telling other people's stories. You know, we're sort of the keepers of these things for the moment, but really, what we try to do at the end of the day is empower people to tell their own stories through their own voices. So, you know, we might collect 1,000 things that migrants have left behind, and if we put those on display, we put those on display with audio recordings that they've made themselves of people telling their stories, or photographs that they've taken themselves with cell phones or with disposable cameras. And so we'd always been interested in that. And I had been approached in 2013 about doing an exhibition around some of this stuff, and I was really hesitant to do it. I was working with the curator at University of Michigan, who really kind of helped me along, and was a person named Amanda Krugliak, who, you know, she said to me, I think there's a lot of potential for this stuff to be in an exhibition, and I was still a little bit hesitant. And I said, you know, I'm not really that comfortable with anthropology exhibitions, at ethnographic exhibitions. And she said, no, we'll put it into an art space. And I said, well, I'm even maybe more uncomfortable with that because that seems even more sort of scary. Is, you know, are we going to put stuff on display and people are going to be fetishizing migrant stuff or losing sight of who people are? But you know, she was really helpful, and we did an exhibition that lasted about 3 or 4 years where I learned a lot during this whole process. And when that show closed, you know, I decided, well, hey, the Undocumented Migration Project, we should be doing our own exhibitions in house. We've got Mike, who has been taking pictures for over a decade with us, who's been giving us advice and feedback about ways to think about this stuff sort of visually and artistically, and so we sort of, I think, made the big push to dive more into exhibitions around end of 2017 into 2018, and now it's really become a fundamental part of everything that we do. I mean, the La Plaza show will heavily feature photos that Mike has taken over the last 5 years. We've been doing a project in Mexico on the experiences of Central American migrants. So that exhibition will be probably the first. The La Plaza show will be the first, I think, real showing of a lot of 5 years of photography and over 10,000 images. And so we're excited to show those photos there, and then that will probably then grow into this larger photo exhibition that will coincide with a book that I'm currently writing about smugglers, and a separate photography book that Mike and I are doing. So now all the exhibition stuff has become part of everything that we do. We have new projects that we're working on in terms of climate change and migration, and we're already thinking about the exhibition work that will come with that, and then as well as a bunch of other stuff that we have in the hopper.
All right. I imagine that with your field studies in particular, when you're actually out there in the deserts, close to the border, and you're finding these objects left behind, or it must it brings the really tragedy of this situation of people having to cross the border, under darkness or whatever. It must bring it to the forefront for you. How do you deal with those emotions? Anybody?
I mean, I guess I'll start. A lot of us here have, Gabe is the one exception, but everybody else has spent time with us in Arizona, looking at picking up stuff, in the desert, and it's very challenging emotionally. I mean, it's a difficult thing to sort of bear witness to, and as from my own perspective, I think the way that we've sort of been able to work through it is. I think that everybody, we're a very close team, and it's not just people who are here on this call. I think that the research teams that we put together every year, we're talking about hundreds of students that have been involved in the field work and in lab work. I think we work really hard to develop relationships of respect and support among ourselves, and then that helps us then to better deal with how we can be respectful of the things that we are encountering, the folks that we are interviewing. But I think so much of it is just about the structure of the team, and just the sort of sentiment that we have, or the culture of work that we have around this. I think that's what really helps all of us kind of maintain a positive attitude, and I think to kind of keep pushing it forward. But I'll let other folks sort of speak on that if they want.
I'll say too, yeah, I think that we're really fortunate, like the people we've gotten to work with, and the team we have to lean on. And it's been interesting these last couple months as different hosts around the country and the world have been doing this work themselves, and either filling out hundreds of toe tags like we have before, or also like instructing others to do it. And I work really closely with this one team of a hosting location at St. Olaf College in Minnesota. And they, since March, got together and developed a whole like digital version of a tag filling process for folks to come together through Zoom and participate in. But we've had conversations recently because they were going, as the fall semester started, these 6 students were going through Zoom to like from class to class of like other professors who were having their students involved in filling out these digital tags. And so they were spending multiple sessions a day explaining this project and participating and having these conversations and these reflections. And by mid-October, they were just devastated, and most of them too were undergrads who were dealing with these issues for the first time. And so we talked about it a bunch, and they decided like the month of November was going to be a, you know, processing month. And so we've had a couple meetings, like our weekly meetings this month, but none are work related. It's just kind of to spend time together and, you know, be a part of the project, but take care of themselves too.
I think
Nicole,
that we,
you have been reached. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that, you know, it's difficult to work on the project, but I think that we spend a lot of time like wanting to get it right, you know, focusing on the rigor to get it right for the people that are represented, you know, making sure that if they're telling a story, that you're recording it in some way that it's clear to the person that's going to view it, as well as making it clear to the viewer that you're not, so they're understanding exactly what it is that you're trying to show them without too much filter. And so that you know, and that people can come to the exhibit. You're also being honest and clear to the people that are, you know, not only involved, but people that couldn't be involved, like, you know, that if you're talking about piece of clothing. So there's just a lot of responsibility to all of these angles. So I think the more and more you focus on that, I don't know, that's what I focus on anyway. You know, it's a difficult subject, but if you kind of get into that part of it and don't worry about, I don't know, the other part quite so much.
All right, Nicole, you two have been working closely with these host schools in putting together the exhibitions on their campuses or wherever. And I'm sure, you know, doing it long distance via Zoom, what's the experience been like?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly been different, and a lot of our hosts have had to innovate new ways to do the exhibition, to fill out the tags and to be able to install it while being socially distant. You know, Gabe spent a lot of months putting together a really in-depth video and text document instructing hosts on how exactly to install the exhibition. And so, you know, we have broken up everything just, you know, in terms of how to instruct people to fill out the tags, down to like what color pen they should be using. But we really have tried to break down every piece of this process as much as we can to try to hold these hosts' hands as much as possible, because it is hard to be able to do this as a long distance thing. I mean, like, we have people all the way across the world on that are doing it. And so we've really spent a lot of time just, and you know, we did 8 prototypes throughout 2019 and early 2020. But those prototypes really gave us an opportunity to think about what works, what doesn't, what are the necessary things that hosts need to know to be able to do this successfully the first time. And so those opportunities really guided our process in terms of what information the host needed to know. And I don't know, Gabe, if you want to add on to that at all.
Well, and also, like Mike said, like each prototype, not only were we thinking of like, okay, logistically, how is this going to work? How is this going to be the easiest for someone who's never done this before to do it? But to really think about, how is this the best way that we could be doing this ethically? And how can we ask strangers who we've never met to have these conversations and you know, deal with this subject in the best way that we all can.
And once the exhibition is up, you know, the hard work of creating the toe tags, installing them on the wall, what kind of reactions have you gotten, you know, besides from the participants, and how have you been getting these reactions? You know, how do you gather this information of how people are reacting to the exhibit?
So we've created, I mean, one of the things that participants are able to do is to write messages on the backs of tags if they feel inclined to. So as they're filling out tags, you know, if they are writing a name that's familiar or a date that's familiar to them, and they, they might feel a certain connection to that, they are more than welcome to turn that tag onto its back where it's blank, and write a message to that person, to that individual. They can write whatever emotions they're feeling. A lot of times people express how angry they are about these circumstances, and the fact that this is happening. So that's kind of one thing. I know initially we had, I think maybe at our first prototype at Franklin and Marshall College, participants there had done some sort of poetry slam where they were able to kind of express things that way. And hosts all the time are coming up with new things to be able to allow different avenues for participants to express the way they're feeling, because it is a heavy topic, and so we really are trying our best to provide those different ways for people to let that out.
Now, I'm not imagining, but I know that migration patterns has changed over the past 4 years with the administration. In the field work that you've done, and then gathering this information, what's been the biggest change that you've seen?
I would say the biggest change right now is, when we started working in Arizona, it was something like 90% Mexican migrants who were coming across, and now it's more like 50% Central American. And so there really has been a rise in Central Americans, especially people coming from Honduras. We've been working along the Guatemala-Mexico border and in Honduras since 2015, and kind of seeing these changes happen in real time. And I think that's one of the things that, like for the La Plaza show, we're going to highlight a lot of the work that we've done in Central America, just because LA is such a wonderful place to connect with folks from El Salvador, Honduras, Guatemala. And so, I think the La Plaza version will speak more directly to those communities than it would necessarily in other places. But part of that just has been our shifting toward trying to understand, what the experiences have been like. It's gotten more expensive. It's gotten more deadly. It used to be that Central American migrants could hop the train from Chiapas and get across Mexico in a month or so or less. And now it can take several months, 6 months, 8 months for people to get all the way across, because it's gotten so expensive. It's gotten so dangerous. And then now you just have, just especially people coming from Honduras right now. I mean, and with the hurricane this week, just people being hit so hard. I'm imagining that we're going to see another wave of climate refugees like we did in '98 with Hurricane Mitch, especially in places like Los Angeles. As I'm looking at the news, I'm looking at what Hurricane Iota is doing to Honduras, especially given they just had a devastating hurricane 2 weeks ago. I think we're going to see a huge demographic shift once again, and I think by this time next year, we're going to see those effects here in Los Angeles.
Now, in the meantime, before you're able to actually go into the different exhibition spaces, whether it be schools or galleries or museums, how are you reaching out to potential hosts now, as we're planning out for 2021?
We have, we've shipped a lot of these kits already, so everybody has all the materials. They're just waiting for campuses or galleries to open so that they can actually do it. What we're trying to do, though, in the meantime, is just keep them engaged through different virtual events. And a lot of our hosts have been doing virtual events throughout the fall, whether it's virtual toe tag filling out sessions. We've been screening our documentary, which I believe we're going to screen at La Plaza next month. Is that right? I get this confused, but there is eventually a La Plaza virtual screening that's going to happen, and then also a physical screening of our documentary Border South. We have started a monthly webinar where we are interviewing people from different backgrounds who are working on issues around art and immigration. But we're just trying to keep connected with all of our hosts so that they can keep the energy and enthusiasm up until the physical shows happen. But I think in a lot of ways, and I'm sure that Gabe and Nicole could speak more to this, for us going virtual right now, you know, it's, I think in a lot of ways it's forced us all to spend more time thinking about inclusion, about how to add, you know, it's not so kind of rushed. I mean, we were sort of imagining that Hostile Terrain 94 was going to happen right up around the election as a way to remind people that number one, the current administration has been doing horrific things to migrants for the last 4 years, but also these things that have been happening have a much longer history. And I think in some ways we were all, I mean, it's been such a stressful month and it's still stressful right now, just waiting for this transition to happen. So I think in a lot of ways going virtual has allowed our hosts to take a little bit of a step back and do more planning for, you know, let's engage now virtually, and then next year when we can get back together in person, we've got all these new ideas that we've been brainstorming with. And so I think in a lot of ways the shows are going to be bigger and better next year because this additional time to plan.
Well, you're exactly right about that. It's given, you know, institutions like La Plaza, you know, we've had to step back with, you know, just to even keep our present exhibitions in place. So when we're able to reopen, then as we're planning for once we reopen, of course, this exhibition, Hostile Terrain, will definitely be, you know, one of the highlights of our exhibition, and to include more, you know, people to participate. Now, please let us know again how can people, you know, you gave us your website, you know, the verbal documentation. How can people remain in contact with the project in the meantime?
A great thing to do is to sign up for our newsletter. That's easy to do on our website. And Jason mentioned the monthly webinars that we're doing. On December 2nd, we have a very exciting webinar planned that will coincide with the launch of an augmented reality experience that we have a team that's been working on. And so that's going to be a very innovative and cool way for people to virtually engage with the exhibition right now while we're in this moment of social distancing. And so, yeah, that's all of the information for that is on our Facebook page. And I would definitely encourage people to attend that.
And this is through the Undocumented Migration Project .org or .com?
It's .org. So yes.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and write that down. I hope I spell it right here. And then you also have a Facebook page, and you have Instagram, and what other means can people interact with the project?
I think a big one too is a reminder to participate in a moment of global remembrance, and not just participate in that, but share it with their communities, and to kind of take this beyond our project, talk about migration, talk about experiences, even if it's not directly related to Hostile Terrain 94, but I think people need to have that conversation and remember that it's you know, it's something that's been an overlooked tragedy in our country for a really long time.
Right.
And all of our social media sites, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, either the Undocumented Migration Project or Hostile Terrain 94, all of those pages are, we regularly are posting content from other hosts and the events that they're working on too. So not only keeping up with us, but if you follow those pages, you'll be able to then connect with all of these other institutions that are working on this exhibition.
All right, thank you. One last question: with the transition to a new administration, do you see any changes? What changes do you foresee in migration overall, the situation at the border?
Well, I want to say let's abolish ICE and tear down what parts of the wall currently exist and get our money back. You know, I think that, you know, Biden is showing good signs right now about making DACA permanent, about reversing a lot of the things that the Trump administration has done. But I think I'm really hopeful that 4 years of people having to fight the current administration, and not just the people who who were already fighting those fights. But I think that there has been a real awakening amongst many folks, especially people who had never really thought about things like immigration or police brutality. I think there is a new movement right now of folks who are both new coming to the game, and then people who have been involved, who are saying we can no longer, we can't reform these systems anymore because they're so fundamentally flawed that we can't go back. The Obama, I think, well, like, many people are sort of nostalgic about the Obama administration, especially in light of the current one. But we need to remind people that Obama deported more people than anyone in the history of this country, and that many of the deaths that have happened in the Arizona desert began under Bill Clinton's watch. And so I'm hopeful that people who voted for Biden and people who are fed up with the way things have been going and the way in which communities of color have been treated are going to come to this current administration and say, you no longer get to go back to this kind of centrist, let's make everybody happy on both sides of the equation. Number one, because people on one side of that equation don't care for communities of color, and they've shown 4 years of that. But then also, going back to the way things used to be, I don't think that cuts it anymore either, because all those things we're doing was hiding the evilness that was lurking below this surface of like, everything's great and we're working towards comprehensive immigration reform. But as far as I'm concerned, there can be no comprehensive immigration reform when we have a system that is just so brutal and militarized, and especially like with the growing detention center complex that was beginning under Obama. I'm hoping that now that voters will come to Biden and say, we voted for you not just to fix the things that Trump was doing, but to make this whole thing better. And making it better does not mean taking a step back 4 years, but actually, really committing to, I would hope, a complete change in many of the systems that are currently in place. So that's my hope. We'll see if that happens. But I think that, a lot of folks and us included, 4 years ago, we were saying if Clinton had been in the White House, we would still be doing this exhibition or something related to it. We'd still be pushing on these things. And so now, Biden doesn't get a free pass on any of this stuff. If anything, Trump has awakened the like sleeping sort of angry monster who doesn't want to put up with stuff anymore. And so now, I think we push this new administration for real change.
All right, thank you. Anybody else have something that they could contribute to this?
I would just add one more thing then. We are incredibly excited about the show at La Plaza. I think that for us, it really is the ideal location and community to do these things. We're incredibly excited about the opportunity to augment. We'll have had a year, more than a year of doing Hostile Terrain 94, and then be able to, and then to really expand it at La Plaza for us is super, super exciting. And we have so much new material, especially the photography work that Mike and others have been doing in Mexico. This kind of emphasis on the shift towards Central American migration. I mean, we're really thrilled about that, and then also being able to engage directly with those communities. So we're hoping that we have a lot of community engagement, people coming to fill out toe tags with us, people coming to participate in things like storytelling workshops, so telling their own stories. For us, it's going to be a culmination of a year of a lot of intense work, but then also happening in such an important location for us.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, we look forward to opening our doors again and to welcoming your team and the community to become involved with this really worthy project, Hostile Terrain 94 by the Undocumented Migration Project. I'd like to thank Jason. Thank you so much, Austin, Nicole, Michael, and Gabe for joining us on this Wednesday evening. I'd like to also thank our viewers, Joyce Martinez Sledge desde Abilene, Texas, Maria Concepcion from the San Fernando Valley, Judy Oviado watching from Boyle Heights, and Yolanda Flores, a frequent viewer from downtown LA. We have Audrey Marquez from Los Angeles and Vanessa Escobar from somewhere in California viewing with us tonight. Thank you. If you came in after we began here in the middle towards the end, you could catch the full session on our YouTube page at La Plaza LA. It'll remain on our Facebook page as well at La Plaza LA, and we'll be posting it on our website, lapca.org, along with updates on the project. Joanna Diaz is saying, thank you so much for this amazing session. I'm looking forward to learning more about your upcoming work, and we as well are looking forward to sharing more information and the progress that you're making with this project as it's going to different places throughout the US and internationally. So muchas gracias a todos. Thank you so much to to California Humanities and SoCal Gas for sponsoring this En Casa con La Plaza session. Thank you to your team, Jason, and best of luck. And we look forward to you coming to our campus, and I'm looking forward to it myself.
Thank you all, and be safe, and we'll see you soon.
All right, gracias. Gracias a todos. Nos vemos pronto. Hasta la próxima. This Friday, I forgot what we're doing this Friday. In fact, I do remember. It's we do conversations, demonstrations, presentations, and we'll be going to our friend Pedro Poncelis Jr. down in Baja California, who will be talking about how the pandemic has affected the El Valle de Guadalupe and a premier winemaking region in Baja California, along with Gil Gutierrez, a good friend of La Plaza, and we'll be talking about just how it's affected this important industry. And next week, we will be doing a couple encore presentations on Monday in Casa con La Plaza Cocina with Oscar Ochoa from Machete Salsa, giving a salsa de molcajete demo. And then on Wednesday at 7 o'clock, Gabby Moreno, the well-known singer-songwriter, she'll be doing an encore presentation, performance, plus a conversation with Beto Arcos and En Casa con La Plaza. Muchas gracias a todos. Buenas noches. We'll see you all soon. And thank you again, Undocumented Migration Project, Jason, Austin, Nicole, Michael, and Gabe. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.